Looking at the linebacker position here and talking about some prospects that the Broncos could look to replace Danny Trevathan with and kind of fill that void he left behind. Starting with Reggie Ragland out of Alabama. Miles Jack is obviously the consensus #1 linebacker in this draft, but it seems Reggie Ragland is a pretty safe bet at being kind of the #2 consensus linebacker in this draft, at least, according to all the draft analysts out there. You look at Reggie Ragland, he's got great size for the position at 6'1", 247 pounds. This is a guy that, scouts would describe as a thumper. He's great against the run. He's got great instincts. He's a nasty hitter, and he provides some versatility in the sense that he can sometimes play on the edge and provide some pass rushing ability. He kind of did that last season at Alabama. But there's questions about his play speed and can he really kind of keep up, so to say, with NFL athletes at the next level, and also his ability in terms of his man coverage skills, which you don't like hearing as a Broncos fan, because one of the best things about Danny Trevathan is, yes, he was undersized for the linebacker position, but he's great in terms of his man coverage skills and being able to cover tight ends one-on-one. So you don't like hearing that, but again, is a guy that's kind of a throwback to the linebacker position. He's a thumper, great size at 247 pounds. He's coming from a great system out of Alabama under Nick Saban. Like a lot of these guys that I've talked about in this video, the question is going to be, does he fall all the way to 31, and with the Broncos, like him enough to trade up to take him, because he's probably not going to fall 31. But again, I think he'd be a nice fit in our defensive scheme under Wade Phillips, and is a guy that would be a heck of a physical presence to add to an already extremely nasty defense here in Denver. Next linebacker prospect I'm going to talk about, we got Darren Lee out of Ohio State. This guy's a freak athlete, 6'1", 232 pounds. Actually reminds me a lot of Ryan Shazier, also a former Ohio State Buckeye, of course now plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, this guy's a freak athlete at the linebacker position. You just look at some of his combine numbers, ran a 4.47 40 at the combine, again at 232 pounds. That's freakish, and at a 35.5-inch vertical. And is a guy that was a former quarterback as well. So this is a guy that has some natural athletic ability that you don't really see that often at the linebacker position. He's got great change of direction, great speed. Again, is a freak athlete. He's got great man cover skills, which again, as a Broncos fan, you love hearing, because as I just mentioned, that was one of Danny Trevathan's best assets. So he easily could kind of fill that void there. He's got blitzing ability, again, due to his speed, his change of direction ability, and because again he's such a freak athlete. He does need to get stronger. He's a little undersized for the linebacker position. He needs to become more disciplined as a tackler. So this is a guy that obviously is going to have to really kind of dedicate himself in the weight room. But in terms of his athletic ability, the man coverage skills, the blitzing ability and the versatility there, and then again kind of the great change of direction and speed, I think he'd probably be an ideal fit for us, and again an ideal replacement for Danny Trevathan. He's bigger than Trevathan. He's more of a freak athlete than Trevathan, but also, like I just mentioned with Reggie Ragland, is a guy that probably isn't going to fall 31. He might, but this is a guy the Broncos are going to have to decide, is he worth trading up for? And I think he would. Again, I think he's got tremendous upside, probably even more upside than Reggie Ragland. Ragland's more the safer pick, and I think he's more of a disruptive force, more of a natural playmaker at the linebacker position on the defensive side of the football. And again, him and Brandon Marshall, I think, would wreak havoc on opposing NFL offenses next season. Darren Lee at Ohio State, I think, would be a phenomenal fit here in Denver. And the last linebacker I'm going to talk about here, you got to really feel for this guy, man. You got Jaylon Smith out of Notre Dame. This is a guy that, before he got hurt, he tore his ACL and LCL last year. Before that injury, he was thought to be a top 5 pick. So this is a guy that was an elite prospect and just had a catastrophic injury, and it's really killed his value ever since. This is a guy that's probably, some people said he might not get drafted, but if he does get drafted, it's probably going to be, on day 3, probably, anywhere from the 4th to 7th round. And I think this could be a guy that, the Broncos could look back on, a few years from now and really, if they select, be really happy with it. I think he could be one of the true steals of this draft. Jaylon Smith, again, out of Notre Dame, 6'2", 223 pounds, again, was a projected top 5 pick before tearing his ACL and LCL. He also has some nerve damage in his left knee that he's rehabbing right now, and he's not expected to play in 2016. So this is a guy that if you do select, you know that he's not going to make an impact right away. He's more of a long-term investment. Again, is not expected to play next season, and is kind of gearing up for a return in 2017. But if you look at just kind of his physical skill set and just overall technical skill set, this guy, again, if he doesn't get hurt, he's right there with Myles Jack as probably the best linebacker in this draft. And how ironic it is Myles Jack also coming off a knee injury, I believe, as well. But obviously, the severity of his knee injury was not quite the same as Jaylon Smith, again, tearing both his ACL and ACL. But this is a guy that is your prototypical kind of size, weight, speed guy. Has great athleticism, elite play speed. Is a guy that's kind of a hybrid player. He's scheme diverse. He can play in a 3-4 or a 4-3. He's very talented in man coverage. He's a great tackler. He just does everything well. Again, the big question with Jaylon Smith is the knee injury, and will he ever be the same after he rehabs this? And again, kind of the nerve damage is also another big question now for him to kind of answer and overcome. But I really like this kid. I'm rooting for him. Again, was a projected top 5 pick before the injury, and the Broncos get some serious value in taking this guy, whether it be in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. And again, is a guy that isn't going to make an immediate impact in 2016, but come 2017 could be one of the steals of this draft, if not the steal of the draft, and could be a great long-term investment that the Broncos could invest in. Again, taking him in the 4th or 5th round, which is just ridiculous. So Jaylon Smith out of Notre Dame, again, a lot of questions with his health, but is a guy that's rehabbing right now. He's a great leader. Is such a confident kid, and again, how can you not root for this guy? Would be a guy to watch for the Broncos to maybe look to snag in the later rounds, and again, could be the steal of this draft. Would love to see maybe the Broncos take a flyer here on Jaylon Smith, and regardless if the Broncos draft him or not, really hope he gets drafted, and really can accomplish his dream and doesn't just get hindered by this really unfortunate injury. Now, lastly, just talking about some offensive line prospects that I think the Broncos could look to target in tomorrow night's NFL draft. I'm not going to talk about any offensive tackle prospects, because I'm not going to lie to you, like it seems if you look at most mock drafts, most of the offensive tackles that the Broncos would probably want, the premier offensive tackles, if you will, in this draft, all are going to be long gone before 31. And when it comes to like the 2nd and 3rd tier offensive tackles, I don't know a whole lot about. So if you want to leave a comment below of some offensive tackles that you'd like to see the Broncos select, go for it. I'd love to hear you guys take. But I'm going to focus on 2 interior offensive line prospects here that I think would be phenomenal fits here in Denver, starting with Cody Whitehair, who's an interior offensive lineman out of Kansas State, 6'4", 301 pounds. I think probably one of the more safer prospects in this draft is a guy you draft and is a starter day one, has a ton of versatility, can play all 5 positions along the offensive front, can even play left tackle, which is obviously not ideal for him, but he did a pretty good job of that playing that position last season for Kansas State at times. And the guy that, again, is just such a safe pick, probably my favorite prospect in this class, to be honest with you. Not sure he's there at 31, but there also might be a solid chance he is. And again, he'd be a very safe, good selection for the Broncos. Immediately would upgrade your offensive line, primarily your interior offensive line. And you look at Cody Whitehair. He's a guy that's a sticky blocker, as scouts would say. He's got great hands, very strong hands, great core strength, great body control. He's a good athlete at 6'4", 301 pounds. He obviously has short arms, but he's extremely polished in terms of his technique. His arms do worry you, so to say, if he goes against kind of longer interior defensive linemen. But this is a guy that I think, again, is one of the safer prospects in this class and would immediately upgrade our interior offensive line, whether you want to put him at center over Matt Paradis. I know everyone likes to blow up Matt Paradis like he had an all-pro year last year, but if you actually watch the games last year, Matt Paradis was awful for probably half of them. I mean, he was pure shit for half of them. So, I mean, Cody Whitehair's a guy you could put at the center spot. You could put at either guard spot, maybe even at the right tackle position, and you could definitely plug him in at right guard, again, replacing Luis Vasquez. So this is a guy I think, Denver would absolutely love, would be an immediate upgrade to our interior offensive line. And again, is one of the safer prospects that the Broncos could probably draft at the end of that 1st round. And then we got Christian Westerman out of Arizona State, 6'3", 298 pounds. This is a guy that's a phenomenal athlete, probably maybe the best athlete in terms of the interior offensive lineman in this draft. He's got great movement skills. Again, is a great athlete, can get to that second level with no problem. Is a guy that you can use as a pulling guard very, very frequently. He does need to get better in terms of his strength, his play strength, if you will, and better as a pass protector. I don't think he's maybe as technically as polished or as versatile as Cody Whitehair, but he's definitely a better athlete. Again, he's got better movement skills, and is a guy that is a perfect fit in Gary Kubiak's zone blocking scheme. He is an ideal fit for our zone blocking scheme. And again, as a guy that upgrades your interior offensive line right away, whether you want to put him at either guard spot, he's going to be an upgrade day one and a starter day one. And again, what would add some tremendous athleticism to our offensive line, again, is a ideal fit for that zone blocking scheme. And as a guy that you probably don't have to take at 31 in the first round, as a guy that you probably look to take in the second, maybe even third round, and get great value as get great value taking him there as a guy that can just start day one. So Cody Whitehair, Christian Westerman, 2 interior offensive linemen, I would love to see the Broncos take. That is my draft preview. I know it is extremely long. I'll probably break this down in 2 parts so you guys don't have to listen to my monotone voice for 40 straight minutes. I really appreciate you guys watching. Leave me a comment below. What do you think the Broncos are going to do in tomorrow's NFL draft? Kind of, what positions of needs do you think the Broncos have to fill, and who do you like the Broncos to take at, what quarterback prospects do you like, what offensive line prospects do you like, defensive line prospects do you like, linebacker prospects do you like? I've heard, that the Broncos may even look safety in the first round. Carl Joseph out of West Virginia, love his game. Maybe that's a guy. Love to hear you guys take on him. And any other position, running back, wide receiver, cornerback, whatever prospects you're filling for the Broncos and that you'd like to see them target, leave me a comment below. As always, guys, love hearing from you. And if you're a fan of any other fan base, would just love to hear your general thoughts on the draft and kind of what you want to see your team do. Always love interacting with football fans here on YouTube. That's it for me, guys. I'm done rambling, done raving. Looking forward to the NFL draft tomorrow night, again from Chicago on ESPN and NFL Network. Check it out. And as always, go Broncos. Can't wait to see what we do. Probably the most excited I've been for a draft in quite some time as a Broncos fan. Should be a fun night tomorrow from Chicago.